we are. Has
We're
anything
back.
happened? Has anything happened since we live streamed last
Eh,
last week?
maybe one or two things, but I don't think it was anything huge, right?
Just full on meltdown.
From
Jose
Brandon.
Wiltfong.
Well, which we'll talk to him later. Dominic, he actually was here about 30 minutes ago and posted this little comment of his. I mean, I don't think we're gonna make nothing out of it, but we'll see. We haven't even talked. Said we hadn't said a word.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't even started the live stream and we weren't going to say anything. Man,
You want to
I
just get
mean,
into it?
yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of have to. I mean, this is. I mean, okay, so I mean, I know on Tuesday I'm eating crow like no other because I went through the whole breakdown as to why Oklahoma makes sense. And I still feel like Oklahoma makes sense. But man, at the end of the day, that NIL package or whatever he got, and maybe it was he wanted to be closer to home. I'm not saying that wasn't a factor at all. But that NIL package probably was more substantial than we ever thought it was or is. I mean, and then the fact that you can be a high school senior going into your senior year of football and starting in September 1, the fact that you can be getting a check cut from the Missouri Collective while you play high school football. You can't even go, you're not even 18 years old at that point. Well, I mean, he could be older for his grade, but maybe midway through the season he'll turn 18. You're not even a legal adult and you're getting checks cut for 10, 20, $30,000 a month. I don't know what it is. But could you imagine being that old and getting that much money and
It's a
you
good
haven't even
life.
stepped on a college campus?
Yeah, it's a pretty good life. I mean, eventually we'll see the good and the bad that's going to come out of this situation. I mean, the NCAA is not going to do a damn thing about it. I mean, I kind of talked about it last week or the week before how I think NIL is just. I don't think it's a bad thing overall, and like in concept, but the way it's being approached is terrible. Like this is supposed to be about being a good football player at the collegiate level and making money off of it, not just making money because some random platform online said you're one of the better players in the country. Like if Williams Nwaneri was a 4-star, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. Well, like we would talk about it because that we talk about recruiting, but no one would really bat it an eye. And obviously, like that's not the case here. He is a 5-star defensive lineman, and he's gonna go to Missouri. And I think last week, and really ever since yesterday, the reason I felt so not as confident as you guys is because we always talk about if there's smoke, there's fire, and that smoke was not just it wasn't just smoke. It was a fucking bonfire that no one really wanted to pay attention to. And I mean, at the end of the day, Mizzou did what they had to get the kid's commitment. I also thought it was absolutely hilarious how they celebrated getting a commitment from him. Like I get it, he's a big deal to that staff, but looking at him, you would think they had just won the Super Bowl or something. Like it was a huge celebration there. I mean, what at the end of the day, is it a big deal? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. Like it's football. One player doesn't make or break your program. It might help. Would have been nice to have him. Would have helped the defensive line. Sure, for sure. But you still like people have been are talking um, as if there's no talent on that defensive line. We got a 5-star defensive lineman in the last cycle, and they're still in play for two of them this cycle. We'll talk about like how likely those chances are at this moment, but it's like it sucks, but move on. Like it's recruiting. You're gonna lose some.
You are, and I think what's the craziest that came out of it. I mean, I watched the announcement, and it almost seemed like it was more of a relief, or like it didn't seem like it was like he was really pumped or anything. Maybe it was just more of he's just glad it's over and he can forget about it. But I think the quote was it to Chad Simmons at On Three that he supposedly silently committed to Mizzou like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And what's crazy to me is just the fact that like I mean the insiders, not even just like Thune and Drum, but I mean other you know Sooner Scoop and those guys. I mean everyone thought, and it's just like DJ Hicks. I mean, everyone thought Oklahoma was the spot, and then until it wasn't, and then they were being told they were Oklahoma was on the side of basically being brought to the altar and then left there, and it's just crazy that they they fed all that information to keep the intrigue going and got a lot of eyes on it, which they did get a lot of eyes on it. It's just crazy to me that they did that, and it's not shocking, but I just think I kind of feel bad for all these, the reporters and like Thune and Drum. I mean, we report on stuff too. We keep up with it, and we try to talk to recruits as well, but not to the degree of them. It's just I kind of feel bad for them because they get a little bit of a people come after them for it. But at the end of the day, I mean, we don't need to talk about it for the next half hour or anything. It is recruiting. One guy doesn't make or break a program, like you said. Does Williams Nwaneri, does it hurt? Yeah. Would it help Oklahoma? Of course. Um, do I think he's going to be a part of this class come December? No. Um, I I don't think there's any way that he ends up in this class. I don't care what anyone says. I think once you kind of make that decision and kind of the way it went, I think it is what it is at this point, and Oklahoma needs to move on, and I think they will. And you still have David Stone out there here in the next couple of weeks or less than 2 weeks at this point. And I will say, that's the guy out of the five-star defensive lineman. I think we all, including Brandon, I think we can speak for him. We feel the best about if you would have asked us a year ago, that's the guy who, if we can only get one, that's the guy. And at the end of the day, if you go 1 for 2 or 1 for 3 on five-star defensive linemen, it's nothing in the world. I mean, Dominic McKinley would just be. We felt like Oklahoma's got a shot, but it's not like a guarantee by any point or by any means. I mean, but with David Stone, I mean, I don't know. Did you see that Miami is becoming a factor in his recruitment? I mean, they always kind of have been, but there was an article that came out about, them being up there and family and things like that. I mean, considering he's at the IMG Academy, um, I I think it's interesting. I would certainly hope that David Stone's going to be a part of this class, and he should be a part of this class. Where I'll really start to feel bad and a little worrisome about Oklahoma is if David Stone doesn't end up in this class. Um, but again, it's still not the end of the world. I mean, Oklahoma's got talented players, and it seems like Nigel Smith and Danny Okoye. I mean, Oklahoma's going to be okay, but you would hope you'd get one of these five stars. And David Stone makes all the sense in the world because he is from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's so tough with this stuff. Like, I think a lot of people learned what was a learning experience with this last recruitment, and I mean, we'll see how coverage changes over the next cycle or two. But with David Stone, like not getting Nwaneri just makes the rest of the defensive line recruitment that much more important. If you don't land Stone, there's going to be a lot of question marks when it comes to Todd Bates. And I think at that point it would be pretty fair obviously there's things like recruiting isn't just like you as the coach is selling them. Like honestly, I'm no one that covers recruiting really knows how much effort coaches are putting into recruiting. Plus trying to develop the talent that's on their roster. Like it's not an easy job by any means. Obviously, we all want them to land them, but there's more out like there's outside factors to it as well. Like families do get very involved, and that's been the story forever. Like it's not just an NIL thing. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't being the Oklahoma defensive line coach. That brings an extra credibility to him. Like you are the defensive line coach for one of the best football programs at the collegiate level ever. Like that should help you in itself, and you've seen how it helps. You see how it helps Evan Jones. He's not having any issues. Jay Valai, he knows how to use those brains to his advantage. David or Brandon Hall, like there's the other coaches are doing it. I don't think it's an NIL problem. I think for some it's been some outside noise that end up biting this OU in the ass, but maybe they're not targeting the right relationships. Like with this one and David Hicks are very similar, in my opinion. And David Stone, who knows what? I mean, we're 11 days away from it. You have to land him. Like he is now a must get. Or recruiting this cycle, top 10 is realistic at that point, but you're going to be pulling a lot. You're going to be pulling at a lot of strings there in the next couple of months because we expected by end of August probably have 18 to 20 kids. Like what are we at? 15, 16 scholarship commitments?
I want to say 16.
16.
Let me double check.
So you're in line for, by the end of the first week of September, you could have, like in the perfect world, you have 4 more.
They have 19. Sorry, 19 commits. My fault.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So they're on track, I guess. But I don't see how you can get a top 5 class without getting Stone and McKinley. Top 10 is still possible if you get one of those 5 stars because you already have a 5-star in Taylor Tatum. But you gotta land these next 2.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the deal. At the end of the day, here in 11 days, as we're recording this and live streaming, if Oklahoma lands David Stone, I think all the uneasiness kind of goes away. Naturally, I mean, I will say I got caught up a little bit in it and not wanting it to be the David Hicks, 2.0. And to be honest, I think Danny commented, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I mean, I got fooled twice. I think I got the feeling with Caden Durham. I just felt like that Williams-Nwaneri wouldn't be that way. But I just think I'm a little less confident on David Stone. I think it should happen on paper. It should, and Oklahoma needs to get him. But is there a world where I see he goes elsewhere? Yeah. I would be wrong to even think that there's an opportunity for him to go to Miami or not think there's any way he would go to Miami. I mean, of course there is. He's at the IMG Academy and Miami might be offering him quite a package. No state income tax in Florida. It's appealing. I mean, as Brandon would say, Miami does suck, though. They don't have their own stadium. But they don't land Stone, you got a problem. But so, I mean, if you look at this defensive line class, what it could be without Williams-Nwaneri, and assume Dominic McKinley is either at LSU or Texas. I think he goes to LSU ultimately. You still have Wyatt Gilmore, who's talented. You've got Jaden Jackson, and how quickly we forget that was a recruitment that we had no business winning 2 weeks prior, or even a week prior, really.
3 days prior.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how quick things turn and people are calling for jobs and questioning all this stuff. I mean, Jaden Jackson is a 4-star, solid player, a true nose tackle that someone that we need. We need that's a position of need for us. That was a big win to beat out Ohio State and Texas and Miami, I believe, and maybe Florida. I can't remember all the other competitors, but that was a big time win. And is he a 5-star? No, but he's a talented player that had 30 something Division I scholarship offers. And then you look, could you get a David Stone? Could you get a Nigel Smith? This defensive line class can be still excellent, better than what Oklahoma's been doing before. Um, in the last 5 years, this would be one of the better defensive line classes that Oklahoma's had.
I agree. And Barney and Jimmy just came on here or are in the comments and said if Stone doesn't commit, Jackson will decommit. I get where the thought process, and I don't think it's a crazy assumption. But you also saw Jaden Jackson commit before David Stone, so it could help Oklahoma keep him around. Obviously, now performance and on the field becomes that much more important because if Stone does commit, and I think it's pretty given that Jackson is more than likely staying. But let's say Stone doesn't commit. If OU puts a 10 or 11 win season, I think you have a good chance at keeping Jaden to stick to the class. But if you win 8 games this next season, I don't think that's good enough to keep him convinced because Texas was right there. And assuming that Texas has the season that their roster says it should, like they might end up getting him to switch sides there. You gotta really you gotta land David Stone. Dominic McKinley, I think Oklahoma's in a much better position than most expect him to be. I don't know, the Texas thing, it just seems so random because no one really knows where this recruitment is. But with the little that's been reported, the Todd Bates relationship and the Soul Mission are a huge factor for the family. You got to just assume that when you win the family, you win the kid because that's what you've seen when it goes sideways. You didn't win the entire family. You only won, just the dad and not the mom or vice versa. Maybe grandparents and then parents weren't about it. Like, you got to win the entire family to win the kid.
You do. And at the end of the day, parents and family plays a big role in where these kids go to play. I mean, could you imagine if Oklahoma lands David Stone and Dominic McKinley and how funny it'll be looking back on this as far as, people are not going to be sweating too much about Williams Nwaneri. Of course, it'd be awesome to have him, but that's not the end of the world. Everything's going to be – Oklahoma's going to be fine. And at the end of the day, Oklahoma's recruiting on a little bit along the defensive line of like what they did at Clemson, putting a little bit of film on paper and for these kids to actually watch, it will make recruiting defensive linemen that much easier. And I think we have to think about that. Oklahoma, Todd Bates and Brent Venables and Miguel Chavis are doing, they are trying to sell the idea that Oklahoma can return back to power along the defensive line like they once were, with Gerald McCoy and everyone. Oklahoma doesn't have to sell the idea of being a quarterback at OU. Oklahoma doesn't have to sell the idea of being an offensive lineman at OU. Really, the two positions that Oklahoma's having to sell are the defensive backs and the defensive line that have been absolutely ruined. And, the reputation has been ruined in the last decade because of, it's the Big 12, no defense, score 60 points, and you still might not win a football game. And so you're recruiting a little bit behind the 8 ball. So they are taking over, not only going head to head against Ohio State and programs like that might offer more NIL, but they're also going against those programs that have a long-standing history of putting defensive linemen year in, year out, first, second, third round picks. And Oklahoma, in recent memory, you have to be objective with it, really hasn't. I mean, their last highest draft pick along the defensive line, was it Neville Gallimore? Was he a 4th round pick of the Cowboys? 3rd? 4th?
I think it was
maybe fifth.
third.
I can't
He
remember.
wasn't that late. I think he was third.
Yeah, he might have been third, but he's a day two guy. So not it's not a day one, or maybe day two, day three guy. So I think we have to remember that Oklahoma's going head to head and bright knocking on the door without actually having like a first round defensive lineman that has gone through the program within the last 5 years. That's not a small task. And I don't think we can forget that.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a good point there. They're having to sell that that they can get to what they were at Clemson, which I don't think is a crazy sell, but I mean, I think it does help to the point to your point where you can show film of your guys in your current at your current university doing what you're saying that they will. I think that does bring it a little bit different because Dabo Sweeney was the head coach. Like, they're probably Dabo can sell them on the same idea and show them on his film with his guys. Brent Venables is gonna have to, and Todd Bates are definitely need to get that together this season. Um, Cody asked any major commitment dates coming up. David Stone is on the 26th of this month, and then after that you got McKinley. It was supposed to be on September 1st. Then Nigel Smith on the 4th, and Braden Platt on the 8th.
Yeah. And then Andy Bass is in there as well as what, August 24th, I want to say, maybe.
Yeah, Andy Bass as well. I did forget about him. My bad.
Yeah.
Gallimore was a second rounder. Yeah, I thought he was
Okay.
second or third, but when you started saying fourth or fifth, I thought I misremembered and just went for the highest one you mentioned.
Okay. Yeah. So still, a second round pick is solid, but I mean, that's been a little while, and that's with the old staff. So, I mean, that's you're having to sell that idea, and I don't think that's um, it's totally fair of holding Oklahoma. I mean, you come in and immediately should just will win out five-star defensive lineman, and I think Oklahoma should. I mean, at the end of the day, I think they should get one of these guys, but it's really hard for a school like even like Georgia or Alabama to have three five-star defensive linemen. And I know Texas A&M did it, but they also have put a lot of money in NIL. Uh, and
And their class.
speaking of NIL, um, sorry, I don't know what it's playing. Speaking of NIL, did you watch any of the Johnny Football? I want to take a break just for a second. Did you watch any of the Johnny Football Netflix
I have not
documentary?
yet, but I've seen interviews of him talking about his time in college.
And man, it is. I don't know if anyone's watching this. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my headphones. Okay, I think we're all good now. But that, if anyone's watching this, and I don't, there are probably some people that weren't his biggest fan, and I know that he wasn't the a stand up public figure. But that's quite a documentary. The NIL, what he did is what NIL was originally intended to be. Selling autographs, things like that. Um, I'm curious.
Brand deals.
Yeah, brand deals. I mean, the fact that he was flying around, sitting courtside at NBA games, hanging out with Drake, all this stuff. No one really thought for the longest time that how's he getting all this money? And then they came up with this whole scheme of that he's coming from a wealthy family, and it's just quite a documentary. But so I don't know. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. No, and look, we're it's something about NIL that I was actually putting some thought into. And I think it's gonna sound weird, but the movie Air came out, right? The story like to that showed like kind of how the Jordan shoes were created. His mom was the one that negotiated. I think some parents may have just gotten a little bit too inspired with that negotiation, and they're trying to be revolutionary when it comes to making sure their kids are taken care of. And I'm sure some of them are being greedy assholes and just trying to take the money and help, living luxurious for themselves. You got to assume that these parents are also just doing what they think is best for their children. I mean, at the end of the day, agree with it or not, that is the beast that you face now in recruiting. Um, I think for the most part, everyone kind of agrees. you're not gonna. This isn't the end of the world for Oklahoma, but you gotta, like we were talking about earlier, land stone so that things don't feel like they're going down the shitter here.
Yeah. So I don't know when Brandon's supposed to join us, but everyone that's watching this, over 100, be sure to like, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below, and we'll see when Brandon gets on, but he should be here relatively soon. But we'll kind of stop, talking about, unless you have any more thoughts. I'm sure Brandon will come in here and have more thoughts, but there's some positive news that came out today with a 2025 tight end in Nate Roberts out of Washington, Oklahoma. Committed to Notre Dame, I believe, in June of this year, and then today backed off his commitment. And it's to the Irish. And it seemed like this might have been a little bit like in the making for a little while, working out with Kevin Sperry and Elijah Thomas and, forming that relationship and being, not too far from Norman. And Oklahoma's and Joe John Finley seem to be recruiting him pretty hard. And he ultimately decommitted from Notre Dame, which is always nice. It seems like Oklahoma's been doing pretty good against the Irish as of late. Nate Roberts could be, he's a 4-star right now, but he very well could become a 5-star tight end. And what do you think? I mean, it seems like I don't think he's going to commit anytime soon, but it seems like signs are pointing towards Oklahoma being a major player, if not the team to beat with all the Cristobal's that have come in.
Yeah, they're definitely the team to beat right now. Like, it would be awesome to get him. I said it like a week or two ago. Oh, excuse me. That Kevin Sperry is putting on a clinic when it comes to peer-to-peer recruiting, and that's not to say that because after I said it, Brandon mentioned like Jackson Arnold did the same thing. Jackson Arnold did a fantastic job with the 23 class and leading that and doing the peer-to-peer recruiting. But I don't think you can really compare it to what Kevin Sperry's doing. Kevin Sperry's doing it 2 years in advance. He seemingly is selling these kids, and probably not intentionally, because he also seemingly really loves the University of Oklahoma and is excited to be the quarterback for OU one day. He's just kind of being as passionate as he is in front of these guys, and it's rubbing off on him. And they're joining him one at a time. It's going to be a really special offensive side of the ball. It's TBD on the defensive side of the ball. Those are going to be later on. But that 2025 class, if Nate Roberts comes in, you're going to have the tight end room itself will have Devon Mitchell, this year's 5-star, and then next year have a highly rated 4-star tight end to follow him. Like, that's going to be a really fun offense to watch, regardless of who's calling the plays. Like, you got plenty of weapons there, and also the run game will be exciting to watch too.
What's up, boys? How are we?
Oh my! Hello. What are you shoving your face with something?
Yeah, throwing down some chips. Wow, just listen to what you guys are talking about. Nate Roberts only been here a couple minutes.
Yeah.
How are you? What'd I miss?
Oh, nothing. Do you want to talk Nate Roberts and circle back to Williams-Nwaneri and get your thoughts on it, or?
I don't want to talk Williams-Nwaneri.
Okay, perfect.
I'm sure I already missed the celebration from Jose.
Jose was definitely fist pumping. He's talked about placing his order for Missouri Tigers jersey for the season.
Definitely not.
And
I'm telling you, when we go to the Central Florida game, we're bringing that guy a Central Florida shirt
because he's going to wear it proudly.
Sorry, I predicted correctly.
Yeah. So
that means whenever I say this guy's probably going to be an Oklahoma Sooner, you guys better be.
You're probably going to be devastated
on it. No,
I can't. Now I just want Hose to be wrong. I'm about to be not even a Sooner fan. I just want Hose to be wrong.
You predicted correctly.
But do you guys think that with Nate Roberts, if Devon Mitchell hadn't reclassified to 2024, he would be decommitting from Notre Dame and considering Oklahoma the way he is? I agree.
I think so. Oklahoma's whole plan, even with Nate Roberts, is to take 2 tight ends in the 2025 class. And they're in for another top tight end in out of Derby, Kansas, Deshaun Brain. He came down for a visit. I think Oklahoma is going for Washington or for Roberts and Brain from Derby. And I think because when you look at that tight end room, you've got Stogner for one more year, and then you're bringing in Devon Mitchell. I mean, you've got a few other guys of I'm blanking, Caden Helms and
Jason
kid
Llewellyn.
from Llewellyn, and then there's one Cade McIntyre from Nebraska are there, but they're young. You bring in Devon Mitchell, you need a couple more tight ends, and so I don't know. I think Oklahoma would still be in on him, and I think he would be. I don't know. I don't think it would really matter that much. I mean, it doesn't hurt to get Mitchell in this 24 class and then have two spots open for potentially Roberts and Brain from Derby.
Brandon,
So.
here, let's get your thoughts on it, because people are just acting as if the world is ending for OU's defense in the future. Maybe we can all talk about this.
That's how it goes.
I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, it's one guy, people. Let's relax. What do you guys think the defense actually looks like in 2 years?
If we don't get David Stone, that's when I'll hit the panic button a little bit. Can't even lie. That's
the
what I'm saying. I think that's part of. I think that's part of the 2-year plan. I think if you don't land David Stone, I think it hurts you 2 years from now.
With the guys that are on the roster, like, you know, just assume you have David Stone, and that's it. The only defensive lineman of this, or 5-star defensive lineman of this class.
Like when you say the future of Oklahoma's defense, are you just asking like what they're going to?
Is it going to keep sucking? Is it going to stay in the bottom third of college football? Is Brent Venables going to revive it, get it back to top 20?
Just because you land 5 stars doesn't mean that you're going to have an elite defense. Does it help? Of course. I mean, it's just like you can have, 75 3-stars and be like Kansas State, but you can still go win a Big 12 championship. I mean, at the end of the day, Oklahoma's taken plenty of 3-stars on offense and defense and have made them stars and contributors and start. And stars don't mean everything. Do stars help? Of course. And as Oklahoma puts more film and gets more guys in the league, under Venables and their staff, the easier that recruiting will be as you win more. I just think it's a tall task when you go from a historically bad literally one of the worst defenses in the last 5 years, like in all of college football, and you're trying to then go land 3 of the top 10 defensive linemen in the country, and that's the expectation within a couple of years. It's a little insane if you think about it. When you just
I don't know. I don't know to say it's insane because you and I fully expected it to be the case.
I never thought that all 3 would be at Oklahoma. I don't think I thought Williams.
That's true. I'll give you McKinley.
I
don't know. I mean, I agree with you, though. You have to put it on the field. It's what we've talked about for so long. Even with this class that we're currently building that's going to be built, it's going to be nice. Like, if this team doesn't – this is the reason that I think – and I don't know if you guys have talked how much NIL stuff you've talked about and, all that stuff with Williams-Nwaneri. But, if it's a non-binding agreement that he has signed and Missouri is dog shit next year, I mean, does that not mean that he can just leave? And I'm tying this back to Oklahoma because if Oklahoma does not play at a high level next season, going to the SEC, if we have another 6 and 7 season going into the Southeastern Conference, we're going to lose a lot of recruits. And I think I'm just going back to Nwaneri for a second, but is that not how that agreement works if it is non-binding? Because I missed this and I wanted to talk about it.
We did not talk about that, but I'm not a legal expert.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in theory, if it is a non-binding agreement, he could walk away.
Take the money and run.
But it seems awfully... I just would have a hard time believing that a collective would be shoveling you cash and be willing to, just say, yeah, we'd like you to come to our school, but here's 100 grand, but you can just walk away. When you think about it, like logically, why would anyone do that? I mean,
I wish these terms were put out there somewhere. It was Brace, one of our good buddies for the viewers, him and I were texting about it, and he said he read it somewhere, and I can't find exactly where, but he's a pretty knowledgeable dude, I think you guys would say. What do you think?
Yeah.
If it is non-binding, then that also means they don't have to pay him shit. So then when Aries also just signed nothing that actually forces anyone to do anything.
I don't know. If it is, that's interesting.
I mean, if the money doesn't show up in September, he very well might be like, well, I'm out.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's the arrangement that they have starting September 1st or September 2nd or whatever. He gets his first installment of whatever was agreed upon.
I mean,
$100
too. I don't know why everyone's pretending like this kid wasn't going to get paid a buttload, which I'm interested because we've actually heard, the three of us have actually heard numbers that have been thrown out to some of these kids. We won't say the exact amount, but I'm interested to see what some of you guys think these kids are getting paid. Because I've seen people think it's like $1 million a year, and that's not. I mean, maybe for the quarterbacks, that's not one that I have any knowledge about. But most of these kids probably aren't even getting anywhere near close to that. They're not NFL players, and the collectives aren't NFL owners that have billions of dollars to invest in a business. Like this is it's essentially a donation that people are, because they want to see their teams do better.
Are you guys believing anything that Georgia was number 2? And I know the quote or whatever, the article that was published, but I just feel like that's a load of bullshit.
I don't.
You don't think it's bullshit,
I don't think. I'm with you. I don't think Georgia was 2.
Well, what's interesting, talking about past recruitments, we talked about there's some parallels between this one and DJ Hicks. But, Peyton Bowen, in his interview, he talked about that Oklahoma wasn't number 2 when he initially committed or flipped to Oregon. He said it was Oregon and Notre Dame. I mean, OU didn't even have a hat at the table. But yet he ended up at Oklahoma. I mean, is that to... I'm saying, it's
which seemed really odd at the time too. Following the business and stuff, to not even have a hat on the table was a bit wild. And then we obviously saw how that turned out.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that Oklahoma was like so far out of the running. Like, part of me wants to think, but I'm not going to fall into this trap. Part of me thinks that ultimately he could be a part of this class on early National Signing Day. I don't expect it, but it just seems odd. How do you visit Oklahoma that many times, have that many connections to Oklahoma, as I outlined on last week's episode, and then Oklahoma's not even number 2? It just doesn't feel like the full story.
I am a proponent of NIL. I think we've talked about it a lot. I'm a proponent of NIL. These kids need to be getting paid. I'm all for that. But going back to like way back when, I think we've had this debate and I've talked about it. This is an example of, and this is not even being biased, Williams Nwaneri, and I understand proximity. If the kid chose to stay home because he wanted to stay home, fine. That makes sense. He's close to Missouri. Missouri is the worst of his top 5. Without bar none, it's not close. They are the worst school on the field. They probably are going to lose a lot of their coaching staff because they're shit. It's the worst football situation for him. He ended up going there. And again, proximity could be the case here. But NIL is, that's what everybody thinks. That's what it looks like. We need to level the playing field here because this part of NIL is rooting college football, I think. And I'll say it all over and over again. I don't understand why we don't have it to where, and I guess maybe because, some schools have bigger donors and bigger collectives and things of that nature. But, they need to make a cap on this NIL thing to where each kid can only be offered X amount of dollars regardless of star and level the playing field here.
I don't know. The NCAA won't do anything because it's apparently up to the state. But these are state schools, so obviously they're gonna do what is best for the universities. and the
Well,
state.
yeah, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, I wish the NCAA would step up here and put some sort of limitation on this shit so it's across the board fair. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, and I mean, to be honest, we're Oklahoma. You know, you're talking about Oklahoma's one of the premier college football programs with one of the biggest donor pools. Or up in the top 10 of money available to the program. But think about the schools like a Kansas State or like a Purdue or Rutgers. They're not even near what Oklahoma can offer. I mean, the discrepancy between where Oklahoma's at and even Power Five schools way below is humongous, and it's just naturally what's going to happen, and it's happening right now. That all the talent is consolidating to, and it has been, to a handful of programs in the SEC and the Big Ten, mainly in the SEC, and that's just the way college football is going. And you're going to, a salary cap would be, I think I would be more in favor of a salary cap. I don't necessarily think that you should be limiting how much, one player can get, but I think you should have
that works.
payroll.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, we could do 5 super maxes or whatever, like the NBA does. If you feel like you need to offer a kid a super max, whatever, but there's no one super max that can be more than the other. The super max is the same across college football.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we really think about it, we used to have these discussions before when NIL was rumored to be getting approved. This is kind of what we expected. You're getting schools that would have never pre-NIL really had an opportunity to get a 5-star, and now they're just as competitive, if not more competitive, than other Power 5 programs, because not everyone's going to fork up that kind of cash. And they're not going to want to, because they got to spread the money around more very talented players. If he was the only 5-star, I bet Oklahoma would have put just as much, if not more money than Mizzou did. But Oklahoma's got 5-stars that they're going after. You're going to lose a couple if it's only about money, because you got to make sure that the rest get their, chunk of change too. I think we hate it, because it's going against Oklahoma, but you're putting other schools in a situation to be competitive, which at the end of the day kind of is what college football was 20 years ago, when you would see some of these small schools somehow make it out and look and have a really good season.
I will say, I'm not the biggest fan of this model of NIL. In my mind, I feel like when it comes to what Johnny Football did, where selling his autographs and selling jerseys and getting proceeds of that was the original intent. And in my mind, that's what I kind of envision it to be. I mean, not collectives just coming in and opening, writing blank checks, basically. I would prefer that these collectives kind of go away and you just can sell your jerseys, get proceeds for that, and then, brand and marketing deals. And
yeah, exactly. Shoot a commercial for the local Mexican cafe.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole point of these universities are profiting X amount of dollars off you. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if we're going to go this way, at least let's not let it be the wild, wild west where, you can do whatever you want depending on the state and, it's
just the Lee Summit pump line that we were creating, the fact that, everything seems so peachy and great in Norman, and I don't know. This is an example to me of NIL ruining the game, because if this is 5 years ago and it's the same top 5, I think Missouri's still a top 5 school just because of proximity. I think he's going to throw him in there. But if it's 5 years ago and there's no NIL deal, I don't know when he was on Air, so I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I doubt he's going to Missouri.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
But is it unfair for OU specifically, or unfair in this situation? Because I think NIL makes it more fair. It sucks that it's how it happens, but
I mean, here, yeah, I guess it makes it more fair because we all agree that 5 years ago he's not going to Missouri, and now Missouri's has a horse in the race because of NIL. But and again, I'm not even against NIL, but I just feel like they need to have And it's going to happen some point down the road. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but somewhere down the road, it's just going to get so crazy. And they will put some sort of – the NCAA will put some sort of limitations and cap and regulations on this NIL. It'll happen.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, it gives smaller schools or schools that wouldn't have landed him an opportunity. And maybe that's ultimately what they were intending behind it. But I just, for the longest time, it was never that way. Basically, I just want it to be we're either doing it one way or we're not, and let's just pick a way and let's just figure it out where you don't have basically government, state,
if this is
helping you.
If this is guaranteed money over a certain amount of years or whatever, like we're thinking is, as soon as September 1st hits, he gets his first increment of payment, and it goes on and then on for a month or whatever, for 25 months or whatever. And Williams Nwaneri ends up not playing very well, or he ends up getting benched or some crazy shit. He's not a good football player. He better still get paid too, because I bet you the collectives, because it's the same thing that we're talking about with, I doubt the collectives will, let this kid take the money and run if he's not going to stay there, because why else would they dish this shit out? But I guarantee you, if he's not playing well on the football field, they will try to find their way to weasel out of this, and that shouldn't be allowed either, because that's stupid.
I agree. That's why I said if it's a non-binding, he has an out just as much as they do. So, if that's the case, then Oklahoma still very much has a shot if they'll continue pursuing him. And it's not unlike OU, because they did try to continue pursuing DJ Hicks towards the end of the 2023 class. But we can move on. I don't know if you guys have been monitoring the chat, but we have people talking about if Oklahoma is or is not a national brand. Seems kind of a silly argument, but it's an argument nonetheless. It's happening.
People think that Oklahoma is not a national
It's not really
brand.
even people. There's one human. His name's Johnny Thompson. Says that Oklahoma isn't that big because he's in Georgia and no one gives a shit about Oklahoma there. I would counter with, you're in Georgia, you're probably only surrounded by UGA fans. Just like Oklahoma's mostly OU fans. No one gives a shit about University of Georgia there.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma is one of the top 10 schools in the country as far as when you think of premier college football. You think of Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU. I mean, and a few others. I mean, people always think of Texas too. They haven't been great, but that's a brand that you always recognize. And Michigan, and even USC to a degree. I mean, you think of them, back in their heyday with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. Oklahoma's one of those programs, 100%. And I mean,
well, we can't recruit Southern kids. No Southern kids, no titles. It's a fact, boys.
Apparently.
Too easy.
Yeah, number 4 recruiting class last year, like the highest we've had ever, or I can't remember how long.
I think they're gonna do just fine. Let's see what else. We talked about Nate Roberts a little bit. Went through the next few big recruitment dates coming up. What's next?
I mean, at the end of the day, Oklahoma's going to be fine. Is what, and if Oklahoma lands David Stone, all of this concern goes out the window. I mean,
yeah,
everyone.
And then it'll be Todd Bates as the GOAT again.
Yeah.
Classic overreaction Tuesday.
This is why we're still on
Tuesday,
July.
right? Yeah.
This is July 46th.
Yes.
Hell yeah, my
Because in
brother.
July this should happen. But in July we also got some good news. And it's coming later on this July.
Yeah. Brandon,
Andy Bass. We're going to land Andy Bass, boys, and everything's going to be fine with the world again. That's what Jose's alluding to. And I agree.
Exactly. Brandon, I pointed out that just a few weeks ago, how quickly we forget how big of a recruiting win Jaden Jackson was when we had no business winning that literally like 72 hours before.
Yep.
Isn't it amazing how quick things as far as perceptions and whatnot, like, oh my gosh, that was awesome, and then totally forget about it. Oklahoma can't recruit.
You see what Alex says here, Hose and Brum, both of you?
Yeah, Georgia.
It's a good
Good rebuttal.
great rebuttal back at Johnny. I'd like to see Johnny response here because it's hard to argue that. Those are facts.
Oh, here's another guy we can talk about. We haven't talked too much on the offensive line, and I do think we need to hit on a couple things here. Grant Bree, as Brom likes to say, or Bricks, as it's correctly pronounced. Apparently, there's rumors that he could be committing before the beginning of the season. There's no date announced yet. But, I mean, OU's still in the thick of things here, and then you also have Eddie Pierre-Louis, who's still out there for Oklahoma. At one point called OU his dream offer, his dream school, so I think Oklahoma's very much still in that. You've got his ex-teammate in Lewis Carter on the roster, which could help recruit him. And then Jordan Seaton, I believe is his name, 4-star offensive tackle from the IMG Academy. Another guy where if you land Stone, I think he's expected to be on campus in mid-September for a game at Oklahoma.
September 30th.
September 30th. Okay, late September. So September 30th he'll be there. If you land Stone, you have Jackson. You might not be in the best spot for Seaton at this exact moment, but if the season goes well, O-line is looking as good as we expect it to, you gotta think that Oklahoma's going to be a real contender there.
And Seaton's teammates with David Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So
it wouldn't suck if he commits to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
If Stone commits to Oklahoma.
If Stone commits to Oklahoma, you already got Jaden Jackson and Stone. Both could be in Seaton's ear to say, hey, come on over to Oklahoma. I think NIL is going to be a big deal in Seaton's recruitment. Believe it or not, shocking.
No way.
Yeah, I know. It's unheard of. But you got to get Stone if you feel like you got a shot with Seaton. Grant Bree, as I like to say, you're right. It seems like that he could commit in the next few weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Were you guessing for that one? I have no idea.
It's OU, Nebraska, or K-State, and
K-State, the home team, right? I guess he's an Iowa kid. Yeah, he's close to Nebraska.
He's Iowa. I think it's Oklahoma.
I do too.
I think
we agree.
Jose, I know you're devastated for picking Oklahoma, but
I'm not. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, it's OU or Nebraska for him, and I don't think K-State's really...
Corn is stupid. Corn sucks.
Yeah. It's easy to be getting in this mindset of like, oh, no, he's not coming to Oklahoma because Williams-Monroe didn't come to Oklahoma. Yeah. Oh, this guy's not coming now. David Stone's not coming now. And then all of a sudden Oklahoma's going to land one of these guys like, oh my gosh, top 5 classes on. Top 5 classes on.
I think we should check. I wonder how our bet is trending. If everything,
I think the Winery news really helps your beard a lot.
It does help keep it around. But let's just assume that Oklahoma does. If one of you guys wants to do the class,
I'm on class calculator right now. Just hold on.
Just pretend
so they still
like
sit
Oklahoma
16. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Give me just a second.
Mute yourself so that we don't hear you typing so loud, please. Thank you. And that just add everyone that we're in for, even if we're not maybe favored. So do McKinley, Stone, Bricks, Pierre-Louis, Seaton. Who else is still out there that Oklahoma's going on? Andy Bass. Am I missing someone? Oh, Smith and Platt. I just wonder how close we could get to a top 5.
I mean,
hold on. Go ahead. I got McKinley, Andy Bass,
Nigel Smith.
Yeah.
Braden Platt.
That's not going to go our way, but whatever.
I mean, yeah. I agree.
Okay, who else? Dominic McKinley, Andy Bass, Nigel Smith, Platt, Eddie Seaton.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you there. 10-2. Don't put in Platt.
Don't put in
saying
Platt.
don't put in
Okay,
Platt.
I'll pull Platt. So right now we're looking at McKinley, Andy Bass, Nigel Smith, Jordan Seaton, Grant
Michael
Bree,
Boganowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Okoye. Forgot about him.
Okay, I'll throw in Okoye.
I still think this can be a top 3 class with all these guys.
And let's just put, or what's it at now? What's the total?
Hold on, let me add the Michael Boganowski. Let's go ahead and calculate this shit. So adding McKinley, Andy Bass, Nigel Smith, Jordan Seaton, Grant Bricks, Danny Okoye, Mike Wazowski. That puts Oklahoma at 284.97.
That's number 3 right now.
Stone was in there.
everything-
I don't know if I
what's
wrote Stone
everything
out or
below
not,
three?
but Stone was in there.
And
What's
then
everything
below,
below 3?
272, which is Alabama, 272, which is Florida State.
Got it.
I mean, a lot of those programs have 21 to 27 commits. Oklahoma's at 19 right now. You would imagine most programs will take between 25 and 28 kids. So I think if Oklahoma wins out on these recruitments, I wouldn't even put Seaton as a for sure, type of guy. I think Oklahoma might pick up a few other people here and there that we're not really thinking of right now. Eli Bowen wasn't included in there.
My bad.
There's another one. Did you put David Stone in there? Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
He muted himself, but yeah.
Hold on, I don't think I actually did.
Yeah. I didn't hear you.
I 100% didn't. All right, David Stone.
Yeah.
That helps. So top 5 is still very possible.
Oh yeah.
My beard is 100% safe though, unless Williams and Mary flips.
So adding Stone and Bowen, Oklahoma's at 293.62.
293.62. I feel like that's the same score that you just had.
No,
it's 284.
something.
Oh, okay. I mean, that still puts us at 3, but I still think that even 3 is still possible here.
Look, we have already talked about it, but
I agree. It's the anti didn't suck.
Anti didn't suck. That's exactly how we would have put it in college too.
Now,
Go ahead.
Jose, I was gonna say, did Eric hold up his end of the bet about?
He said he did. I'm taking him for his word.
Basically, donating $1,000 to the Soul Mission in our name. Eric, you did that, correct? Because I think that's what Jose told me,
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
which is quite impressive.
Very
Yeah,
impressive.
shout out to you. Honestly, I forgot about that bet. You could have never done it, and we wouldn't have ever remembered, more than likely.
Yeah, which is pretty darn cool that you did that. Unfortunately, I wish you didn't have to do that, and I wish it would have just been Williams Winery, and then you can come on here and This Does Not Suck, and Jose could be Jose Bayless, and we could just be,
I'm all for it.
getting after Jose. But except he's fist pumping this morning and yesterday, and it is what it is.
All right. I know we already talked about this, but this Johnny guy is doing some fucking mental gymnastics to reason why Oklahoma has a 0 shot at a top 5 class, even though we just did the math. It's very possible.
The maths.
The maths to a potential top 5. The mental gymnastics, though, shout out to you, because I don't think I could have gotten to that conclusion with what you just put together there.
Now, 293 would have put Oklahoma at 4 last year for
293.62.
reference. 306 was number 3, and that was Texas. So it might be a stretch. Good thing we agreed on a top 4 class.
I agree. I do agree to that.
But that's why Jose is fist pumping every time a kid commits elsewhere from Oklahoma. He's just a diehard anti-Sooner. So
My diehard correct predictions.
yes. So, but yeah, I mean, It's going to be
Trolls
alright.
are LOL.
We can start a Sunday live stream. I think we can do something Sundays. Maybe Sunday after a Sooner game, sometime in the morning. Not before church, not before NFL football, but like probably 8 a.m. host time. No, that's 10 o'clock. That's probably church. I don't know. I was just thinking a Sunday live stream would be fun because then we can really see the true, Jose reactions. Like if Oklahoma drops a game against Texas or something, and he just comes in on that Sunday morning, just giddy as hell, ready to go, just like, God, that was such a great game. Go Horns, then we'll know. I mean, but I feel like that would be the case.
I agree.
I know you weren't here to watch the last football season because you were off on a long vacation or whatever, but I called for Jeff Levy's job after the Texas game.
I
I'm not proud of it.
I'm
not proud of it, but it happened.
We'll never forget. I'll never forget. I was having to talk you off the ledge.
Yeah, Brum was the rational one that day.
Been there. With
how do you score 0 points though? Like that is hard. That's just as hard as scoring 49 points.
No, it might be harder to score 0.
Probably.
Than to score 49.
So if anything, we actually won. You're welcome.
Yeah, like how do you not get a field goal? That's crazy.
The offense was so good that it didn't want to show off. Maybe that's how we should spend this.
Exactly.
Do you see what Eric just said?
I still hate Jose.
I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Or Eric, you can donate to us as well. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, look at this thirsty.
Yeah, we need an NIL deal. That's what we need.
We're gonna help this team recruit.
Oh yeah, it should go to the Soul program. So
here, some people were talking about Roof earlier, which maybe we're leading into the season. We're less than 20 days away from OU football, right? I mean,
yeah,
dude, it's close.
Close.
September 2, right? No, September 3. I can't even remember now. September 3, right? Or is it 2?
Oh gosh, let me pull up my calendar.
No, you guys don't know either. I feel like we just had it. This is embarrassing.
Go ahead.
3.
Second.
2. Yeah.
Okay.
It's 2 weeks.
September 2nd.
2 weeks from Saturday.
All right. So people were talking about Ted Roof. Is he a good defensive coordinator? Does he suck? What's his value? I think Ted Roof is probably going to get 1 or 2 more years, and regardless of the outcome, if it's good or bad, he might just, he's kind of an older coach. I don't know how much more he wants to be in the booth and calling games. And you also probably would want to keep some of the younger guys on the staff happy, and you don't want to lose too many of them, if any at all, ideally. So I would assume at some point, Avalai, Hall, maybe Bates, they all get promoted to, one of them gets promoted to the play caller.
I have no problem with him making $1.15 million without even having seen a single game last season. I have no idea how bad the defense was. I looked at the numbers up; they were pretty horrible, numbers wise when we did the D-line breakdown video. But it's impossible to know if somebody's going to be good or bad after one season in college football, especially when everything was everything was changing in Oklahoma. It was a totally different culture. It was different players. It was different everything. They were deep gutted and had to come all the way back. If he had the best defense in the nation last year, I don't know that I would trust it. Just being 1 year that he could have caught lightning in a bottle there, and then just one bad season is what it is. It's impossible to know what you're getting after one season. So who cares what he's making?
It's also, when you think about it in perspective, like for us, when someone starts a new job and joins your company or whatever, that first year, that first 12 months, you're just trying to figure out what they've got, what they can bring, to the table and things like that. After year 1, it's a learning experience. Year 2 is when you figure out if you're going to be the guy or not.
Well, do you remember when Josh McDaniel, it's not even a year-long example, but remember when Josh McDaniel was head coach of the Broncos, started 6-0, everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid, he beat the Patriots and started fist pumping like an asshole for 45 minutes off the field. Everybody's like, God, he's the GOAT, what a great hire, all this and that and that. They finished 2-8, he gets canned. So People need to
Yeah.
relax.
You learn a lot in the second year, and you figure
Mm-hmm.
out in football and work in general, you figure out what you've got in year two. If Oklahoma's not made any improvements this year, I don't think Ted Roof will still be there.
Have
But
y'all
I think
talked?
I
Have
think
y'all
Oklahoma
talked? Because I missed the first half of the show. Have y'all talked about Peyton Bowen yet? Have you guys been reading the stuff that he's playing 5 different spots on the field and learning how to play a different position depending on the installation of the defense or whatever the set is? They've got him studying different spots on the field depending on the situation or depending on the personnel. I think it's crazy cool.
To be honest, I have not. I did not read that. So I knew he'd be in different positions, but I didn't realize 5.
I read, I think it was Oklahoma Insider, and I saw it on the X app. But yeah, he was. They've got him playing 5 different positions or 5 different areas on the field, depending on whatever the installation is or the personnel. They've got him running all over the field, and I think it's Jose who talks about it all the time. It's like Brent Venables, because again, I didn't see last season, but like acknowledge maybe he didn't play enough of the young guys or didn't put the young guys in a good situation. This is him literally not just saying that he didn't do it right, but he's literally gonna find a spot. And I don't know if that means, because 5 is overkill. I agree, especially for a freshman player to be just thrown into 5 different positions. I think maybe the idea behind it is to have him proficient enough in 5 positions, or good enough in 5 positions, and maybe he'll excel in 1 or 2, and then as a freshman they can throw him into those 1 or 2 spots.
So I didn't read the full thing. Like, it sounds like you may have, but I saw bits and pieces of it on the X app, just like you. And I was thinking about it. Could he be kind of like a Jabril Peppers for Oklahoma? Like, Jabril in college was nasty, and he did play a ton of positions for Michigan.
I had the same idea, or a Tyrann Mathieu in the NFL, or even in college, because at LSU he was doing the same thing. But it sounds to me like that's exactly what they're trying to put this kid into a position to play, and he's got the perfect. We've talked to him at length for a long time. He's got the perfect skill set, perfect size, perfect. He's going to be a dude, and it shows. Especially, I mean, if they're trying to work this kid in as a freshman at 5 different positions, they asked him about it, and he was like, "It's a lot, but I like it," or like, "It's a good challenge," something along those lines. Like he's enthused, he's about it. I think that kid's going to be big. I think even in year 1. I just didn't know if y'all talked about it yet, but I thought it deserved a shout out.
Not yet, but I'm glad we were both on the same page there with Jabril Peppers kind of comparison. Who knows if he becomes that good? That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I don't expect that to actually
if you're talking about the defense, like you were talking about the defense 2 or 3 years from now, if Peyton Bowen becomes a Tyrann Mathieu or Jabril Peppers, it's going to be probably at least a top 25 defense in the country, just because he's at the collegiate level. I'm pretty sure, and this is just blind without even throwing it out. I would venture to say with Jabril Peppers and with Ty Mathieu, both of those defenses were top 25. I just think at the collegiate level, with one player that is that good, that's that dominant, you can kind of change the game. And him playing at a high level will only help everything else.
Wasn't Jabril a Heisman finalist? Or like he was
Yes.
talked about as a Heisman finalist? Like,
Yeah.
It was absurd. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Get our own version of Jabril back in his college days. But, I mean, someone asked about Ted Roof recruiting. He does recruit, but I'm pretty sure he just sticks to linebackers. He's not like some of the other coaches that do just general like recruiting for regions or whatever.
I heard you guys talking about,
PB.
Peyton Bowen being like a Jabril Peppers. Yeah, Peppers was a awesome player for Michigan, kind of a Swiss Army knife. And if Peyton Bowen can be that, and Tyrann Mathieu, I mean, Oklahoma's going to be all right. And I'm just at this point, it's August 15th. Obviously, recruiting's a big deal, but I just can't wait to actually watch some games. Brandon can, he's not on vacation all this,
No vacation. I'm so locked.
Like, just to be able to actually see what Oklahoma's going to be. We've talked about, we expect them to be better. They should be better, yada, yada, yada. We can actually watch them play. I mean, we're 2 weeks from Saturday. I mean, we're
So it's the most wonderful time of the year, except for sometimes in this fan base, and it's probably not just Oklahoma fan base. I'm about to shit on people that probably don't need. I mean, some people need to, some people don't. I'm sure it's across college football everywhere in the country. I think going into week one, that first Saturday out, so whatever it's going to be, August 25 or something. That first Saturday out, 1 week out from the season. To me, it's just like it's excitement in the air. It's you can't wait to tailgate, pop cold ones. Just have a good time, sit under the tents, have a good time. There should be belief in there. Everybody should be thinking that they're good. The problem that's going to happen is Dylan Gabriel will throw one incomplete pass, and the second he has one incomplete pass, it's all of a sudden Oklahoma sucks and we're never going to win a game, and better luck next year, shit like that. And again, I said Oklahoma. That's got to be a fan base everywhere in the country, but.
Oh, yeah.
It should be the most wonderful time of the year. We should all be excited. We should have belief. There's reason to believe the team will be good. And even if you don't believe that they're going to be good, at the end of the day, they're 0-0. And if you're a sunshine pumper like we are, that right there is enough reason to believe. You have 0 losses.
Everyone has a chance at the national championship today. Everyone has a chance
That
at the Super Bowl
should be
today.
the mentality here.
It's day 0.
It's day 0.
Maybe after 3 weeks, we change your
The
tune.
most wonderful time of the year.
I'm with you there.
It's the most wonderful time.
Well, if Quinn Ewers at Texas throws an incomplete pass, they're going to be calling for Arch Manning to come out.
And that, as much as I hate Texas, that's unfair. That's ridiculously stupid, but it's going to happen just because of the name. And honestly, I hope that the Texas fans are so obnoxious and so ridiculous and so just asinine that they somehow push for that and it happens. Because, especially that
I don't even think
Oklahoma fans did it.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I hope Texas fans can do that, and especially do that in week 2. Again, if Quinn is even playing not great football, but playing good football in Alabama or at Alabama, they're going to call for, or I guess they can't call for his head in Alabama. But damn it, kind of wish the game was in Texas now because, God, I wish that kid would got his first ever playing time against Alabama. Talk about just rattling.
Game 2.
Yeah, game 2 of his career. Hey, kid, go ahead and get in there and throw against Saban and the boys.
Is he even second string for them? Or is Malik Murphy number 2?
I think Malik Murphy's the best quarterback on that roster. And he'll never play.
Hopefully, then he'll have to transfer out.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, shoot, we're nearly 150 people right now. And we're over an hour in. That's getting pretty consistent now.
Shout out y'all again.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Should we do any final thoughts? Maybe take a last question or two and kind of wrap this up, or what do you guys think?
Sure.
If anyone has any questions, or if you saw anything, Jose.
I've seen here's the most recent one. What if Farouk isn't that guy? Then there will be another guy.
That's it. Next man up. If Farouk isn't that guy, that just goes back to what I've been saying for a while. That opens the door for Jaquez Petaway without a doubt.
I was going to say the
next in rotation there. Yeah.
Petaway then gets this chance.
I don't think there's it. I think Farouk is for sure that guy. I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, but what if, bro?
I know.
But what if though? What happened?
Who's that guy?
Who's that guy then?
Probably one of the guys on the roster right now.
That's a great answer. Never heard a better answer in my life.
Actually, is good. That right there is fantastic. I graduated 2019. I think these guys graduated 18, right?
From college?
Yeah, that was a question from Cole.
18. Yeah, 2018, December, because we decided to take an extra semester for fun.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, you can go on a payment plan or just bail out of the bet altogether and no shame.
We're not gonna hold you to it. You outed yourself.
Which wide receiver
has a breakout? My bad.
Oh yeah.
Can I say can I say Jaquez Petaway?
Go for it. You won't.
I'm riding that horse, buddy. Jaquez.
Andrew Anthony. I think Anthony's primed for a pretty solid year. Jose?
Farouk. I'm just going to stay safe here. I'm gonna play this
Hedging his
game,
bets.
boys.
That's the safest thing you could have said.
I agreed. It's a safe bet. I just don't know what the rest of the receivers look like.
Nick,
If I got to pick a dark horse, it's got to be Drake Stoops.
Nick Anderson, as long as he can stay healthy, it seems like he should contribute.
No Gavin Freeman, love.
Ah, shit, we forgot. No, don't point at us. You also said
I've been on
Venables
Jaquez
and
Pepe
Gavin Freeman.
for 7 months now. I'm not gonna go back now.
Here's another one by Dominic. Who will start opposite of Woody?
Trey Brown.
Come back from the NFL trade.
Yeah. Gentry Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
Gentry.
gonna say the same thing. Another Tulsa kid though, so I mean,
Which freshman do you on from the DBs? So
Peyton
including
Bowen.
safeties and corners. Do you think Peyton Bowen gets the most playing time out of all?
100%. I think he's gonna get the most playing time out of any freshman, maybe outside of Jaquez Pedway, because I'm so high on Jaquez, but I think Peyton Bowen's gonna play a lot.
I don't think it's a crazy answer, but I'm actually just gonna go with like Makari Vickers or Josiah Wagner. Like I'm kind of between the two. If I have to pick one, I'll pick Josiah, just because Peyton is, he's a true safety, and maybe he'll come down and play nickel every once in a while. But if he does play more consistently as a safety, it's hard to see him get a ton of playing time over the guys that are in that room. Versus Josiah Wagner, like that number 2 spot is still kind of questionable. So if Gentry has some off games, or if Woody Washington ends up, getting an injury for a game or two, one of those freshmen could step in for a couple games and have good playing time.
I just think you guys brought up the article about Peyton Bowen being put in 5 different spots. It just feels like they're going to find a way to get him on the field.
That's what, yeah. Like you haven't read that about a freshman in forever. You haven't read that about fucking anybody in forever. I don't know the last player for Oklahoma who was being thrown into 5 different spots. Maybe Billy Bowen back in the day, or not back in the day, a couple years ago.
I was
He
thinking
was,
about it.
yeah.
But he was being thrown out there because of necessity and injury and things like that. Like this seems to be like, this seems to be like, we're just going to find you a way to get you on the field because you're that impactful.
Exactly. Yeah, he's gonna get his snaps. He's gonna get his, especially early on the season.
Yep.
Let's see. Any more questions? Oh, Dominic had another one, actually. I just saw it a second ago. Who's the leader of the defense after Danny is gone?
You want it to be Jaren Kanak, right?
Yes, that seems like the easy assumption because they
Or
are
again,
so close.
or again, Peyton Bowen. I think just the way that they seem to be grooming this kid. That's working with this kid, or trying to build him up to something. I think Peyton Bowen Peyton Bowen, yes, is going to be. It's either that guy or Jaren Kanak. I think is what you want to see.
Or could also be Deshaun McCullough. But
That's true. That's a good one. One of those guys.
Especially he, being after a year in the system, he might feel a little more comfortable to become that guy in the locker room.
Lewis Carter isn't a bad answer either. There's a lot of high praise going in his direction after just being on campus for 8 months.
Two Beers question is fantastic, and I'll let you guys field that first.
All right, 2 Beers. Do you think Gavin Freeman and Peyton Bowen make Stoops and Bowman Jr. part-time players? Maybe for Stoops, but I think that's still a stretch. Not for Billy, though. I don't think Billy becomes a part-time player. If anything, the other safety spot becomes more rotational.
If anything, I was going to disagree with you, host, and I think Billy Bowman's more in trouble here than Drake Stoops is.
Yeah, I think they're just going to roll out enough packages where Gavin Freeman and Stoops will be on the field at the same time in some packages. I just think they're going to be rotating a lot of guys in the wide receiver room just naturally. I don't think Billy Bowman is going to really lose his spot. I think they're just going to have packages for Billy Bowman. If someone gets hurt, of course, you throw everything out the window, but I just think it's hard to bet against Stoops and Bowman here. To be that guy or those guys.
do we go back? Are we going to have an H-back type player this season? I don't really think Levy's offense has that kind of player in his system. I remember when we talked about it when he first got hired. That's kind of one of the positions that was going to be gone, and tight ends were more relevant.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who would be that guy.
I think if Caden Helms didn't get hurt so much, or didn't he seems to always be a little banged up and stuff. Maybe he's not quite panning out to be what. But I kind of thought of after B. Willie that Caden Helms would kind of play that role, but it doesn't appear that way at the moment.
Football, Stoops is definitely not slow. I don't know if you saw those last couple of games, but he was beating people on deep routes and had a pretty good space between him and the defender. He might not be Gavin Freeman fast, but he's definitely not a slow guy.
How fast is Gavin Freeman?
He's pretty fucking fast.
Is
He's up there with like Gentry and Jaden.
Hell yeah.
He's one of the faster guys on the team. Score prediction week 1. I'm going to go Oklahoma 60 to, is it Arkansas State week 1, right?
Yeah.
Just 7.
52-10. Arkansas State.
59-17.
I'm actually pretty excited for this upcoming season because we're going to bring back the gambling.
Bring back the gambling. Pick 'em. I agree. Pick 'em is fun.
Me and Brum we were back and forth on who was taking the lead. I think I
Did you guys do the whole season?
winning by like a game. We did. I think we even did the bowl games, right?
Just college football?
Yeah, just college.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Jose and I did it. I'm trying to go back to see if I have some notes in my phone.
Nobody logged this. I was about to say, yeah. What? How do you not log this?
I had it on a piece of paper, but we can just go back to like the last video, last season, and figure it out.
The last one I had was the week of OU Texas Tech.
Maybe that's where we stopped. I couldn't.
Was that the last?
That was the last game of the season.
Yeah, I finished 39, 37, and 1 on the year last year. So just a hair over 500.
Hey, baby, it's winning.
That is winning football. So maybe we'll build upon that this year. So
I think I know the player you're talking about football, and I think they were talking to Peyton Bowen about that, and I want to say he said Stoops may not be that fast, but he's shifty and he's tough or something along those lines.
Yeah, just because you're not running a 10-second 100 doesn't mean you're not fast.
He wouldn't be playing D1 football. I guess you can play D1 if not a very fast player, but it helps, especially in the slot.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a good show today.
Yeah, I agree.
Not so contentious.
I like Jimmy's score, 51-3. Let's roll with that.
It's a good one, 49-7. We'll probably talk about this again in a couple weeks, because we will be putting.
Most wonderful time of the year.
I will be taking at least 6 every week, probably 10.
Do we put money on this, or are we just betting for fun or amongst ourselves?
No,
how does this work?
We were just making picks.
Okay, cool. Sounds fun.
Records. Now, if you want to gamble,
we should do. We should do something among ourselves, like, between the 3 of us, whoever has the best record gets something, or I don't know,
or a punishment.
As it goes, yeah, or the bottom person has to do something, whatever, something easy and fun.
Yeah, figure something out. Got a couple of weeks, so. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid show. So, made this far. Be sure to like, subscribe, turn that notification bell on. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And remember, every Tuesday night, we have now shifted the start time to 8:30 instead of 8 p.m. Central. And we will catch you guys next Tuesday.